this computer.
There you go, it's recording.
All right, we are going live. All right, welcome. Welcome to another edition of Sherry Shares. I'm Sherry, your host. And today I am having a chat with Sheila Bicknell, who is the founder of Blue Water Oracle. And that's her name of her website. Now, I met Sheila back in 2011, I think it was. No, it was actually even before that. It was 2009. I think it was around April or May at Curves. And then I went to Curves for about 10 years before, things changed for me. But so I followed you there, and then I've been following your journey from being a dietitian, a registered dietitian, which of course has a lot of restrictions on you, very scientific and very methodical and very left-brained kind of work. But you're this amazing intuitive that has a deep connection with spirit. And so you wanted to play to the right, but you were making your bread and butter was, from the left. But you finally, as your shirt says, follow your dreams. They know the way. So you stepped a few years back, you stepped into it and really embraced your talent and your skill, of which I've been, at the receiving end a few times. You've done readings for me, and they're always just so amazing and poignant and inspirational. And yeah, you really have an amazing gift. So welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. Hi, Sherry.
Hi. So share with us a little bit about how does one, let me just back up for a second. A lot of people say, yeah, but I spent all that time and money and training and schooling, and, to give it up feels like a waste. I'm of the mind that, life is a buffet, so try it all. There's not just one meal. There's not one size fits all. Right?
You leap much easier than I do. So yeah, it was quite a process. It was quite a journey within, an investigation with life and playing with stuff and trying things, and having gone through some very difficult personal moments, health and wellness and emotional moments that sort of opened up to, all right, here we go. This is your choice. Are you going to stay and continue to do things this way? Or are you going to go into something you've already known is playing, you've already known it's chatting to you, it's talking to you, you're learning and exploring. So what are you going to do? And it took a few years of doing both, juggling. Right. And then finally I said, okay, it's time to go full on intuition, oracle, all the time.
Yeah. So I heard you say it was speaking to me. What did that, because I've had some friends and clients who have said to me, well, nothing speaks to me. Like, well, what are you talking about? What does that mean? So for you, what did that mean that something spoke to you?
So in the most subtle way, or not so subtle, depending on the day, when I would be doing nutrition, I was private practice. So I was seeing clients. So I'd be prepping, learning, continuing education, working with clients, going to medical clinics. But my heart was always, there's something else. And I was super drawn to there were television programs coming out about mediumship and psychics, and I was having conversations with my dad about things, and we were watching TV shows, and it was just lighting up. I was doing a couple workshops with my sister and on my own, and it never left. It was always there, and it was actually there way more passionately than, I'm a bit embarrassed to say, than the nutrition ever was.
Why are you embarrassed to say?
Because I have colleagues, I have nutrition colleagues who were so passionate. They were cooking and experimenting and making food and giving recipes to their clients, whereas my skill set was much more on the explaining, on the detective work behind the scenes for why is that medical thing now presenting, and how can I help you with my sphere of the nutrition.
Beautiful.
So I really feel like I'm doing the same thing. It's just that I'm meeting whatever their true need is in the moment. I'm not being held by, I have to stay within nutrition, medical nutrition.
That's right. That's right. So it's like a big wheel, and you had a piece of that pie. So your skill set, everything kind of aligned for more of that, that medical Whereas other people, maybe they like cooking. I don't think
Absolutely.
that cooking's really your thing, right?
Yeah, no.
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 No,
So
eating,
exactly.
yes. Eating, yes.
Eating.
Cooking, not so much. Yeah, no.
So
So
there
it
you
was
go.
always, it was actually quite a joke with some of my nutrition clients, because they would be like, "You're not a big cook?" I'm like, "Yeah, no."
No.
They're like, "Dietitian, nutritionist. I'm teaching you about it. I'm not
Exactly.
cooking for you."
Exactly.
So we would
Exactly.
laugh, but it was always something that sort of stayed a little bit with me. I felt like, I should be, why can't I do more? I should be more into it.
Isn't that funny?
And
That's so ego driven, right?
absolutely,
That
and
we
it's
get
and
in
it's
our heads.
part of our learning too, right? It was
Yeah.
it was part of the career as a nutritionist. We did food science, we did cooking, so we had the basics of it. My skill, my passion was elsewhere, which I was super happy with, in order to be able to help clients and help them understand what was going on, so that they could connect the dots. So that's something
Exactly.
I still do. I just do it in
Exactly.
a different way. I do it in a different way. And those skills, one of the things you mentioned is, when somebody like me looks at a university degree, 20 years in practice, uh, and then I'm going to do what? I'm going to do this. So it took a few years for me to really be able to look back and go, okay, the skill sets of entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
of client notation, of professionalism, of being able to do conferences, so there were things that I had already created and learned, that I just shifted the subject matter,
Exactly.
but I'm still me. I'm just talking about
That's
different
right.
stuff most of the time. Sometimes
Yeah.
same stuff, sometimes
Well,
different.
yeah, exactly. Because with what you're doing now, you can, I'm sure a lot of people say, how come to you maybe because they've got weight issues, or, help me figure out from spirit, why I have weight issues, or whatever the topic might be. So a lot of that can really come together.
And sometimes it just comes up, because
Yeah.
the intuitive consultations or readings, the way I do things come up in whatever is needed in the moment. So sometimes it will be about a health issue, or it will be about nutrition will come up as something that's important. At other times, it's going to be completely emotional, could be about relationships, could be about their
Mm,
work decisions, personal worth, could be messages from their spirit team, messages from spirits. So it really, to me, my style and where I'm gifted is really in the here and now. So I'm not predicting stuff. I'm not bringing things from the future into the now. I'm really saying, okay, well, what does um, universal wisdom, your highest self, what do the cards, as well as our intuition and our discussion, want to help you with today?
yeah, very nice. Very nice. So let's take a step back for a second then, and let me ask you, okay, Oracle, because we put that you've gone from nutrition to intuition. You're now an Oracle. What is that? Explain to everybody a little bit about what an Oracle is, or what's behind it.
So I started on the journey of with the word oracle by using oracle cards. So a lot
Mm,
of people are very familiar with tarot cards. It's a more usual deck that a lot of people at least have heard of. So
mm-hmm.
oracle cards are also, they can be a divination tool, they can be a guiding tool, and they are just a much more fluid, much more flexible structure. So they can have anything on them about any subject matter, words, no words, images, numbers. It's completely up to the design of the author. Whereas
Okay.
tarot always follows a
Right.
structure,
You got your
even if it's
swords and your cups
of
and
anything.
your,
Yeah.
right.
Whether it's
Yeah.
angel tarot, tarot of the trees, tarot fairy, one of the original decks, it's always following the same structure, just with adjustment in the visual and in the tools that will allow the interpretation. So I
Okay.
learned about oracle cards. I was drawn to them. Actually, I
Yeah.
had tarot first, and I have
Yeah,
just in the
yeah.
last,
Me too, actually. I used to do
yeah,
tarot. Now this is one of my favorite decks here.
okay,
Ask Your Guides
that's
by
your
Sonia
guide. Yeah.
Choquette.
So I
Imagine
started
you.
with tarot, and actually this year I've come back to explore them much more. They
Oh,
gave me permission, if you like. My
so
deck was like, yes,
yeah.
you're allowed to work together again. I'm like, okay,
Um,
thank you. That's very nice of you. But I started with the oracle cards, and I did some study. I did an online course with one of the authors of a few decks I have, Denise Lynn. So learning about how to do card reading. So that expanded what I was already exploring and learning on my own. And then I took that and then continued to expand and explore on my own. But one of the ideas that she brings up is the concept of the oracle. And it's the idea that in most people would associate it with ancient Greece, the oracles of Delphi, but there were also oracles in other places. Some of the ancient, more ancient techniques of certain parts of Europe would have used, pagans would have perhaps consulted the wise person or the oracle.
So the oracle is the wise person?
Yes, it can be. So it's often the oracle would be somebody who has that connection with the unseen, the otherworldly. So whether that is taken in that group as being connecting with the elements, connecting with the seasons, or whether it goes even more unseen to be connecting with spirit team, deceased loved ones, and then you can go on and on. More woo-woo depending on how far you want to go. So it's the idea that you're consulting somebody who's going to see things from a perspective that you probably don't see.
Yeah.
And interpret it in such a way that you can then take the pieces and say, okay, now what do I do with it?
Right, right.
And in my style, we do a lot of chatting. We do a lot of discussing. I question things, and then we work because we're shifting energies and openings, creating openings as well. So I don't just present people with info and say, here, have a good day. We're really working on stuff together most of the time.
Wow. Wow. How long are your sessions usually?
So a full session where we can really explore is between an hour and 2 hours.
Wow. So
and it's very rare that it's only an hour.
Okay.
Because it takes, most humans, it takes some time to open up into something, especially if it's their first time working with me. It takes us time to open. Most people don't sort of let down their walls, barriers, protective coating,
right.
You know, their stories. They don't let them all down instantaneously. Some people do, woo, jump right in.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it takes a little time to go through. But also it can be that people come in with one question saying, I need information about this. And the intuitive energy will come and say, oh, hi, we're going to actually come over from the side and chat to you about it, but in a way you didn't expect. So that it allows you to see things that you weren't noticing, or we didn't have those pieces of insight or wisdom to connect the dots together. So that's where it's sometimes, it does take a bit longer. Right. Although mini sessions are good too. They're very different. So when I do my own live session on my Facebook page, and I'll be doing little mini sessions. So just giving people insight in the moment that will hopefully be of value and help to them.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. And like I said, I have been on the receiving end of this and with different questions. And sometimes I've just asked for a reading. Sheila and I, we shared an office together at the Little Yellow House in Beaurepaire, which is here on the west end of Montreal. The Little Yellow House that we talked about last week with Manon, because she's also, she's the flower essence therapist there as well. So when we used to share an office, Sheila, sometimes I'd be graced with a quick reading or two. So basically then to wrap that piece up, you're tapping into the person's spirit guides, whatever is around. Like you said, it could be spirit family, it could be loved ones that have crossed over. But you're really tuning in to that energy of the person, and this is why it can take a little while for them. Once they've got to let that guard down or that wall down, so that you have access to that kind of energy.
Yeah. So right? I say that on the most basic level, I'm chatting with their highest self, their highest knowing.
Okay. So what does that mean? Someone's highest self. We hear that a lot.
Yeah. If we have the idea that we come into this life with a soul. So we're a spirit being that's living a human life. So we've lived lives before, we've experienced stuff before, and we come in. There's a part of us that knows why we're going through some of the stuff we're going through, knows why we're going to make a decision or not, or why we're playing in something that we're exploring. But we as the human don't always know.
Right. Right.
So we're the ones who can get frustrated, get irritated, get worried, try to choose the best route, but not always sure are we doing it. And the highest self will be like, oh yeah, okay, this is the flow, and go over here. We're going to open a door over here. And this is why you're connecting with that person in this way. So I don't believe that it gives us necessarily all of the answers, because we always have free choice, but it can help out in a way that most people don't realize that it's available. So we all have our own intuition. To me, I consider it now as just our sixth sense. It's another sense that we're just not taught about.
Yeah.
So many people don't explore it to use it.
Yeah.
They might know about it in terms of like gut instinct, or mother's intuition is one that many people will accept. They know that mom will know stuff about you.
Mom always knows.
Whether you want them to know or not, they know. Or if they're, across an ocean or on the other side of the country, you'll get a phone call from mom. Are you doing okay? I was just thinking about you. How did she know? How did she know? So that's that unseen intuitive connection or psychic connection. So between people who are very closely linked, of course, it can be stronger. And then there are people who have it stronger, whether they like it or not. They've either developed it throughout life, or they've come into this life with a stronger intuitive or psychic connection. Yeah. But everybody has it. It's part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's definitely a sense that can be worked on, and it's like a muscle. You can work it. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've known some great intuitives. One of my friends, the minute I'm thinking about her, Susan, she'll call me and she'll say, you rang.
Exactly.
Because I always will say, I was just thinking about you. It's amazing how that happens to many of us, right?
And it's one of the things that people often are resistant about doing a distance reading or doing online. Of course, we're doing more of now. We're doing telephone. And I tell them that they're unseen wires, they're unseen communication methods. So I don't need to be with the person. I don't even need to be present with them. I can do a distance reading audio. I do audio readings. I do text readings. So it's once the desire for that connection has been established, the person has said, yes, I would like the info, then I can tap in and see what wants to come up.
And see, it's just like that in the energy world. As a Reiki practitioner, the Reiki is energy. It's the same idea that it goes anywhere, because there is no space and time. That's just a construct of our human minds. So it's everywhere in the now. It's that whole matrix thing, which is, mind-blowing stuff, because we've been so taught, right, to be, it's like infinity. What does infinity look like? I don't think anybody really, the human brain can't wrap itself around that. What do you mean there's no end? Because we're so used to barriers and countries and borders and boxes.
And for a lot of people, it is hard to trust something they don't see.
Yes, that's very good point.
It is difficult because we're not exposed to it. We're not taught to play with it. And that's why quite often when I go into readings, especially events, I'll say, let's play. Because we don't know what's going to come up. We know we're working on it to help ourselves, to help us, possibly to help the world. As we all help ourselves, we usually help the world.
Very well said.
Authentic and genuine ways.
Yeah.
But when people think that they can't see something, a lot of people immediately back away or put up a bigger wall. Whereas others have enough moments of something that was more than a coincidence, which I would call a synchronicity or flow, that it gives them the opportunity to start to go, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I love that.
And that's where it's highest self that I'm working with, but it's also the broader spectrum of whatever you want to call it, infinite wisdom, the divine, the great spirit, the great mystery, God. To me, they're all human versions of the same thing.
Right.
And then we get spirit team that comes in, because as humans, maybe we need to think of something that's a little bit more like us than the whole picture.
Yes.
So we get guides and angels and spirit animals, and then we get passed over loved ones who can also
Right.
come through. And
Well said.
I'm the one who's the most fascinated when I do things and I sense things and I know something about somebody that how do I know that? I
Yeah.
learn and I practice and I trust and
Yeah. Key word right there is
yeah,
trust. You know,
absolutely.
that is so often at the center of everything that we do. Like even for you to make the leap of faith, you know, to go from, like you say, the 20 years, you know, as a registered dietitian and all that schooling, et cetera, to make the leap from that and to trust that this is where you're meant to play. This is where you're meant to be. You
And
know,
having a great support system, I've been really
mm,
blessed.
yeah.
So yes, trust me in what I'm being called to do. But I do acknowledge that I'm very, very blessed with a wonderful support system, family, friends, business contacts. So that when I didn't trust, I had other people who
Ah,
could lift me up, boost me up. So then I could do the next level of learning and
nice.
exploring myself. So it's definitely journey, adventure. Yep.
Yep.
Definitely. With wonderful moments, but
Yeah.
like any adventure with challenging ones as well.
Yes, I imagine. Because the two worlds are so different.
Yeah.
You guys
But
complete.
I love having them though, because I do still I haven't ignored science. I think science is fantastic. It has
Yeah.
given us so much and it will continue. Where I hope is that we'll see a merging of things.
Yes, and we're starting to see that a lot. The science and spirituality worlds are really coming together with people like Greg Braden, Bruce
Right?
Lipton,
Joe
Joe Dispenza.
Dispenza. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I know once a year or twice a year they've been doing these science and spirituality conferences. And there was one that was supposed to take place on Vancouver Island. I think it was this spring, but of course with COVID, everything got knocked down. If it wasn't this year, it was last year. But anyway, so they do go around and they've been doing these like 5-6 day conferences. So it's really bringing the two worlds together. Science is proving that this stuff is not just woo-woo, that it's all energy. Our thoughts are energy, our spirits are energy. So we have this interlinkingness. You can do readings around the world. I can throw Reiki around the world. We are all connected to this matrix, and we're finding out more and
And
more about it.
people who understand science in the true sense of what it is know that that has always been the way.
Yeah,
You know, we
yeah,
didn't know we had cells until we knew we had cells.
yeah, right?
We didn't know what the blood did in their bodies until we learned more about it. We
No, we
still don't know everything about it.
yeah, like look at the human brain. Sheesh.
Yeah, when I would see nutrition clients and we would have these debates about science and moving forward and why don't they know and why don't they know, I said, on the most basic level, the earth was flat until we knew it was round.
Yeah.
And there's still some people who
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
it's flat. You know, good on them. If they're happy and they're doing well and they're not harming others, fantastic.
Then hey,
Right?
yeah.
But that is the ultimate nature of science. So these things that people have been working with forever, you know, elements, seasons, cycles, intuitive knowing, instincts. Humans wouldn't have got very far without some instincts.
Yes, so true.
You know, we need, as all
Good
other
point.
creatures.
Good point.
So we just bring them in a different way so that somebody in the moment who's struggling with feeling heavy or they're zipping over the same questions a million times, I help them to take a step back, take a step in, listen, get some other insights, shift some energy, and then they have action steps to move forward that feel lighter and clearer and more connected too, which in this day and age is very, very valuable for people.
Very valuable. Well, that's a really good way to wrap this up. This went way too fast. There's so much. Yeah, this was great. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and your light in the world. So everybody who's watching, whether you're watching it live or you watch it later, look Sheila up and get a reading from her. You will not be sorry. So thank you, Sheila. Have an amazing day. And to everybody, be kind to Mother Earth. We do not have a planet B. Take care.
Well,
You too.